What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie. Here in the States, in a couple days, it's going to be Halloween, a weird little holiday in which kids wear costumes and go ask for candy. We celebrate things spooky, sort of our sort of commercialized, candified version of Dia de los Muertos, which living here in South Texas, we also celebrate pretty extravagantly and some really good activities and festivities around that. But Halloween. Phish, the jam band from Vermont, back in the 90s, started covering for Halloween, did musical costumes. Beatles, The Who, their first four, Beatles, The Who, Talking Heads, Velvet Underground. I've made videos about those respective ones. They're in my breakdown of the live Phish series. But then over the years, they continued to do other things, including getting a little more creative. And on Halloween of 2018, in Paradise, Nevada, they did this neat little. They did this. What I'm going to talk about. What this album is a live document of. They played an album called I Rock, a 1981 album by the Scandinavian progressive rock, though I guess progressive is a slight stretch. A band, Kasvot Vaxt. I'm spelling down there. And they were going to cover this album. There was even, if you were going to the show and wanted to know more about this band, there was even not a Wikipedia page. There was an allmusic.com page, which is still up there. That's what the allmusic.com page looks like right there. Talking about this album, its relative obscurity, its how it can be found circulating on cassette tapes. Just a really nice little mysterious write-up. When in actuality, these were all Phish songs. They were all in English, heavy on the funk, really funky. Like, I think if one thing stands out more than anything, it's Page's really, really, really funky keyboard sounds, which are fantastic. But it pretty much, when all is said and done, sounds like a whole new bunch of Phish tunes that are incredibly funky, just wrapped in what is a pretty neat musical concept. Don't really know what people thought when they were here. I don't think I ever went down any sort of internet comment rabbit hole to know if people were tricked or when the secret got out. In 2018, I was not closely following Phish, and didn't know about this until about a week and a half after they actually did the performance, when they dropped it on a streaming version of the album about a week and a half later, and that's when I discovered the whole thing. I don't even think I knew what they covered that year on Halloween. I don't know what I was doing in 2018. But anyways, yeah. But now it's an album, and it's called Kasvot Vaxt, I Rock. Kasvot Vaxt means, apparently, in some language, face plant into rock, which is the lyrics to one of the songs. It's about 70 minutes of music. There are 10 songs that are played. The longest, there's a couple songs that are just under 9 minutes long. There's no really epic type 2 jamming on here. There's a couple extensive solos, but I don't think there's anything that would compare. Definitely would not compare to classic versions of a Tweezer or a David Bowie or an Antelope or any of those things. A lot of the solos fall into a sort of Yamar, Runaway Jim, Possum a little bit. Just kind of fall into that category. There's a couple really good ones. But it's a fun listen. And it's an interesting listen. A number of these songs, I think all of the songs were played subsequently. Not all of them stuck around. I think one of them, Say It To Me Santos, with Santos, Santos, being an acronym meaning Subterranean Arctic Neurotechnology Orientation Station. Yeah. Typical Phish weirdness. I think that one got played the most. A couple only got a handful, a couple about a dozen. So they popped up in various set lists. And I think the most interesting thing about this album is going forward. This is a collection of songs that I do think are all strong songs, but collectively back to back to back to back, kind of run together. Um, a lot of these just start off with just kind of a mid-tempo funk groove that kind of doesn't vary too much from each other, and it's not till we get into the depths of the song and we get like a really good solo, we get the melody of the lyrics, or we get maybe a little proggy section towards the middle when things really start to differentiate themselves. But like the beginning of each song, you're kind of like, okay, we're another kind of mid-tempo funk song, we're now a low-key funk song, we're another mid-tempo funk song. So I think the album as a whole suffers from that. But going forward, as these songs were played in other sets and other shows and mixed around things that had different sounds, old school songs, cover songs, faster songs, that kind of stuff, I think the strength of these songs started to shine. I think all of them were played. I think the ones that got played the most were Turtle, the opening track, Turtle in the Clouds, We Are Come to Outlive Our Brains, Death Don't Hurt Very Long, The Final Hurrah, and definitely, I think the one that I've seen the most on set list is Say It To Me, Santos. Though I have to admit, I don't follow Phish set list as much recently as I did back in like the 90s and early 2000s. So I may be wrong on that. Correct me if I am. But there are a number of things I really, really like on this album. And I'm one of those people that I'm pretty easy to please. And if an opening track is strong, I'm more likely to put on an album often because it just reels me in. And I love the opening song, Turtle in the Clouds. Super funky, kind of a mid-tempo pop song, but they're really leaning into the funk sounds. The bass is kind of front and center and driving the action. And Page just sounds fantastic. I think everybody's singing at one point. John gets a lot of lines. And so it's a nice start to it, a really nice opening. It's kind of catchy, short little Trey part at the end. I think Page gets like the solo in here. He gets like the main solo in like, the solo section. So I think it's a really strong start, and that helps pull me in on this. Going forward, the next three songs I think have really good moments, but I don't think are as catchy as that opening song. Stray Dog, ending solo that feels like there's just a little more room to play in this, even though the whole song is about 4 minutes long. Great keyboard sounds again. Everything is Hollow, kind of a heavier mid-tempo groove. Repeated line, take it down, get to lay it down. I'm sure I'm off on the melody on that. Just keeping the funky vibe going. And then We Are Come to Outlive Our Brains. Kind of a little more reined in, tighter funk sound. Flirting with an NICU type vibe, not quite as catchy as that song, but just a little bit more of a chiller. Yamar meets NICU, that kind of just chill groove, that kind of solo that just kind of like everybody's dancing to on like an afternoon type show, first set type vibe. But I think songs 2, 3, and 4 are not quite for me as catchy and hooky as the opening, Turtle in the Clouds. Track 5 is Say It To Me, Santos. Funky, everybody's singing. This is what space smells like. Yeah. This is by far the most intense shredding solo by Trey yet. Still too short of a solo. The whole thing's about 6+ minutes. He's still not going out there. It's still not ferocious. It's still definitely more of like just let loose type vibe. But I think it's one of the better songs on here. The Final Hurrah, nice kind of drum bass led funk light opening. We get this pre-recorded female computer voice that kind of drops in, and then Trey starts soloing out of this female voice jam that happens and kind of slowly building it. We get just kind of drenched in some wah sound. Some nice momentum is coming, but it's a longer song. I think this song is like 8+ minutes. But right when it feels like maybe we're going to like take off and go on like some really epic like Phish type jam, the vocals come back in and we kind of wrap things up early. Though the ending of it gets really, really heavy, completely different vibe. We need way more of this sort of heaviness, way more of this just like something different to kind of vary the musical landscape. So the Final Hurrah at the end, kind of works. This is where faceplant into rock comes over and over again. But the final Rob, the progressive rock label of this band being a progressive Scandinavian rock band maybe comes into play with that song and some of the songs towards the end. Play by Play, I think, is one of the better songs on here. That's the 7th song. Nice repetitive groove, just like a chill, low-key funk vibe. Just like we have this jammy, proggy, Phishy section in there that's kind of good. But this one has your first kind of almost out there spacey jam in the middle where maybe we're going to like a type 2 type neighborhood for a while. It is a very kind of hypnotic, sort of just repetitive, kind of that kind of trippy type groove where it's relatively simple. There are some proggy passages, but just the overall vibe of it is just, I don't know, just works a little better. Death Don't Hurt Very Long is a pretty good mid-tempo funk pop song. John gets a nice vocal. This is one of those where kind of starts off okay and then it just gets progressively better as the song goes. One of those kind of solo sections where the drums start and then stop, a little more playful in the middle. The title gets repeated a lot in this. Some very dramatic drum plays. I think I wrote this might be the best solo of it. Kind of a really nice, tense solo by Trey. I have that this is the best solo, I think, of this. Probably, maybe the longest, the most intense, the most like Trey flirting with the dark edges of what Phish does. And then the last 2 songs, it almost seems like Death Don't Hurt is a too early peak. And the last 2 songs are kind of just, I don't know, not the climactic ending you would expect. Cool Amber and Mercury is just kind of pleasant pop, kind of a mid-tempo pleasant pop song with a melodic Trey solo in it. And then Passing Through, really nice piano vibe in this from Page, not this super funky keyboard sound, but a nice piano vibe. It's just a weird little set closer, kind of anticlimactic. The last 5 minutes or so is this nice kind of bass groove. Trey starts soloing, but it's not this like crazy hectic climax. It's almost just like, oh, that's how we're going to end it. So it's an interesting album. Yeah, I think it starts off really strong. It's got some really strong songs in the back half, Play by Play and Death Don't Hurt Very Long. You know, Say To Me Santos right in the middle is pretty strong. None of it's bad, I would say. I just think maybe there could have been more prog action on it, more variants of just start off a little different. I just think there's that repetitive nature. One thing that has always stuck with me about Phish that I get obsessed over sometimes is I took a good friend of mine went on tour with me the first half of the 94 summer tour. An ex-girlfriend of mine, we had stayed friends. We both moved to Texas. I decided to go on 94 summer tour. So we drove out to Eugene together to hang out with a friend of ours from Berkeley. Then she went on like the first bunch of shows with me. She eventually ended up coming back to Texas. But she would always complain that like all of their songs kind of start off in the exact same tempo. Like there's little variance. And looking at the shows that we saw back in there, that was the case for a lot of the songs. And it's definitely one of the things with this show where I just think there's no segueing into songs. You don't get that awesome aspect of it. You're getting these songs that develop pretty much similarly and they go better places. But yeah. Not a glowing, raving review of this album. I apologize. But mad props for the attempt. Mad props for creating an all-music page. Mad props for drunking some pretty sick funk sounds. It's a fun funk listen. You know, and still to do Halloween shows. You know what, this is 24 years after their first one. And to still make it 24, 34. My math's off. 24 years after their first one. You know, it's awesome. I think the originality, they get props for that. Dropping a whole new set of songs, they get props for that. Making it entertaining enough to sit through, they get props for that. But yeah, those are my thoughts on this Phish Halloween endeavor. I do kind of recommend it. I do think it's a fun listen. And the funk sounds, Paige is probably the star on this. I think Paige is bringing it hardcore. But yeah, man. Interesting show. It's the set. It's not the show. It was the second set of 3, but I'm just going to talk about this release. But I'm rambling. That's all I got to say on this. Thanks for watching. Let me know about this. Let me know what I'm wrong about. You know how these things work. Let me know if you check this out. But yeah. And if you want to read that whole All Music thing, it's on All Music under whatever the name of this band is. Kasvot Vaxt. Yeah. All right. That's all I got. Talk to you later. Peace. And I think I rock might be faceplant into rock. I rock, faceplant into, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't speak whatever language this apparently is. All right. Peace. Talk to you later. Rambling.